Oh, let's go back to audio. Audio is much better. All right, here we go. Here we go. We'll start over. All right. On Second Thought, episode 292, brought to you by Hookem.com, our good friends at Bud Light. My name is Cedric Golden. I'm joined here by the Duck, Kirk Bohls. And Duck, the madness is upon us, and we've already had Seth Davis, and we already had the illustrious Chris Button, and now we get the preeminent authority on college basketball at the worldwide leader, ESPN. Jay Bilas, such a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. How are you today, Jay?
I'm doing great. I hope you guys are too.
Man, we're just all excited here. I'm sure you're existing on like 3 hours sleep a night because you're ubiquitous. Everywhere we turn, we see you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but yeah, it's a time for less sleep, but you're energized at the same time. It's a good time of year.
It is the most fun. It's the one event in America that never lets us down. I mean, the Oscars are bad, and sometimes Super Bowl's bad, but the March Madness is wonderful. Texas is the sexy pick in Bristol, and you have them in your Final Four. What is it about these Longhorns that has people excited and basically ensuring that they don't get there?
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of the thing. I mean, I don't know when at least the job that I'm supposed to be doing became picking teams, because when I first started, I was called a color commentator, and now I'm an analyst. And they want you to tell people who's going to win. Well, I can tell you what the game, what's important and what the game's going to be decided on. But if I knew who was going to win, I'd be in Vegas sitting by the pool at a fancy hotel with a drink in my hand, raking in cash. But I think one of the reasons that Texas is so appealing, one, they got a pretty decent draw. I mean, Colgate's not an easy team to play against, but Texas is significantly better. Colgate can really move the ball, and they have five guys that average in double figures, and they shoot it well, and they're very well coached. So it's one of those games that if you overlook them, they can beat you. But if Texas is locked in, I don't see any way that they drop a game to Colgate. But the draw is good. I think it's a good region. There's nobody in that region on the bottom half of the bracket that I think that Texas can't handle, because the Longhorns defend at a high level, and they've got. I think the fact that Tyrese Hunter's starting to play better and score again, and then Timmy Allen's supposed to be healthy, but the big guys have really started to play well, especially Dylan Dessou. As you guys know, when he was at Vanderbilt, he was leading the SEC in rebounding when he got injured. And I thought last year he didn't look like the player that I saw before, and he looks like that now. And so there are a whole bunch of reasons, but these are just educated guesses more than anything. But if Texas is able to get through to the Elite Eight and have to play a team like Houston, that's going to be a fist fight of a game. But I think, as good as Houston is, and I think they're legit, Texas scores a little bit easier, and at that stage of the tournament, I think being able to make shots from multiple positions is going to be helpful.
Well, we all know it's always about guards this time of year, and Texas has a bunch of them. Marcus Carr's been in a shooting slump, kind of got out of it in the championship game against Kansas and Kansas City. Do you worry about him? Because he is the heart and soul of this team, even though, Tyrese Hunter, as you said, has improved and gotten on his game, and Jabari Rice, his status as sixth man is very distinctive and noteworthy.
I don't worry too much about Marcus Carr, because he's a natural scorer, and he does adjust that if he's not hitting his perimeter shot, he can get to the basket and he gets to the free throw line. He's just a bucket getter. I can never figure out hot versus not, and how do slumps begin? When do they begin? And then how do they end? Whether it's a hitter in baseball or a shooter. You don't stop swinging, you don't stop shooting. So, and I know Marcus isn't going to stop shooting. So, I'm not particularly worried about that. And especially in these games, these are more possession-oriented games in the tournament. The breaks are really long. Seems like every commercial is like 5 minutes long. That's why the coaches all have a little committee meeting outside of their huddle, because they're like, we don't have 5 minutes of content. Let's just talk to each other, and then we'll talk to them for a minute and a half.
That makes sense. Big 12 banner year for the league, and every game seemed to be great. We saw a lot of games being where we live, and I know you saw a few. I know it's not football where, like in the SEC, teams can literally beat each other up over the year and then be vulnerable in the postseason. What's the fine line between being battle tested and being kind of worn out by the grind that is a Big 12 schedule?
I don't know. I've not seen. At least I can't recall a league quite like the Big 12 was this year, where there didn't seem to be a bottom in the league, and there were no layup games. Like even the teams that had poor records in conference, whether it was Texas Tech or Oklahoma, even West Virginia didn't have a great conference record. They're good, and going to their place and trying to win is really hard, and they're just hard to beat, period. There were no layups in the league. I don't think the top of the league is necessarily the best I've ever seen. It's not like I'd say I'd put this league up against, the Big East in the 80s or the ACC in the 80s and 90s or whatever, or even more vintage. I don't see that. You just saw unusual quality throughout the league. And yeah, top to bottom. And so when you get to the tournament, there's a part of me that thinks that the Big 12 teams that made it, the 7, all say, all right, now we get some fresh meat, that people that don't know us so well and don't know our game so well. So maybe it'll be easier. Some of this stuff I think tends to be backward looking. In other words, you go into the tournament, you lose, and then, well, we were tired. Like we were when I played, and this is a million years ago, we were the #1 overall seed. We won going into the championship game. We'd won 37 games, and we had a brutal physical game against #2 Kansas in the national semifinals, its Final Four, and then we wound up getting clipped by a bucket by Louisville in the championship game. And afterwards, people were saying, well, the Duke team was a little tired and all that stuff. And, I guess you're looking for excuses, but I said, every win we had, nobody said we were tired, but we won. It's only when we lose that people say, well, we were tired or this or that. Nobody ever said that when we won. In some of these games, we only won by 1 or 2 baskets. So I'm not sure about that. I don't think the one good thing about this season and sort of playing now is the technology and the rest and recovery for these players is better than it's ever been. And rest and recovery didn't exist when I played, and nutrition and all that stuff. These guys, they do more, they have more capacity. And so I'm not as concerned about tired. Injury is different, but tired, I'm not concerned about.
Yeah, to me, tired may be a factor if you lost by 20 or something like that.
Yeah,
but you lose on a last second shot, it makes no sense. When you look on paper, as Alabama looked like the most superior team in the country, Jay, and the whole distractions, could that come back up now that the national is just focusing on these next 3 weeks?
I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a tragic situation, and they have had it surrounding the program for a period of time now. It'll certainly grow a little louder at the Final Four or in the NCAA tournament. But they had a taste of it, of sort of the questions and things that may be asked. There's nothing they can answer. It's a no comment answer, and that's the smart way to handle it and the only way to handle it. But they dealt with a little bit of the SEC tournament. Doesn't seem to be affecting them on the court.
Sure doesn't.
So they're probably the most talented team out there. They're young, but their youth hasn't shown up to me anyway. I had their game at Houston where they were, if I remember right, they were down 17 early in the second half. And I was kind of thinking, I actually said to my broadcast partner at the time, I said, this is going to get away from Alabama. And they went with a smaller lineup, and they, kind of bowed up and came back and won the game. And, for people that reflexively say, well, young team, that's going to show up in postseason, it hasn't shown up yet. And and there are a lot of older teams that fold in those situations. So I'm not particularly worried about that. But, I think they have, of the #1 seeds, Alabama's got the easiest path.
Mm-hmm. I know people out there listening are going, please ask Jay Bilas what his Final Four is so I can copy him and then get mad at him when it doesn't happen. Arizona, Texas, Duke, and UConn. Of those 3, I haven't seen UConn. What about them intrigues you?
UConn has tremendous size, so they've got two big guys, Adama Sanogo and Donovan Clingan, and Clingan's a freshman, about 7 feet tall, and they've got really athletic wings, and they've got a great shooter in Jordan Hawkins. They really have everything you need, except their point guard is a guy named Tristan Newton, who's had a triple-double this year. He transferred in from East Carolina, and he's really good. But he's been the thing that everybody's pointed to. They don't have a natural point guard, point guard play, this kind of thing. Guy's got a triple-double. I don't know what they want him to do. But I think if UConn, they're going to have some challenges. Like they play Iona in the first game. And I really like UConn's team. That's why I picked them for the Final Four. But when you really look at the bracket, they do have some stumbling blocks. Like Iona has elite guard play, especially for the Metro Atlantic Conference, and they've got size. They've got a guy at 7'4" on their team. Wow. that plays, and wow. And their wings are athletic and they press. So their pressure, full court pressure, could negate UConn's big guys inside. And UConn hasn't won consistently in the tournament over the last several years, so it's not like they're going in with a lot of tournament experience to rely upon. I still like them. There's a chance that they could play VCU in the second round, another team that would press. So there are some hurdles there for UConn, but if they get past that, they might play UCLA or Gonzaga, and I just like them. I like them having a chance. And I decided this year, all of us were talking about, it's going to be a crazy tournament. And I didn't think the conference tournaments were that crazy. No, but yeah, there's a lot of chalk in those. But I thought, you know what, go away from the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds, and let's pick the teams you think, okay, I really like this team all year. They're seeded lower than I expected, but I still like them. So I decided to get a little more adventurous.
I love that.
Coaches' careers can be made in this tournament. As you know, Texas picked Tom Penders out of Rhode Island after he made a run. Rick Barnes out of Clemson when he made a run and got to San Antonio. Rodney Terry is kind of in limbo. He's in a state of flux for Texas. He's done a magnificent job, as you know. Do you think he's done enough to earn the job, or do you think Texas is smart in waiting since he was 0-1 in NCAA play in 10 years at UTEP and Fresno State?
I think things have changed. It used to be, and in my position, I don't feel like TV analysts should be stumping for people to get jobs or all that, because I have heard people do that, and I've heard people say, well, he's earned the job. Right. And I love Rodney Terry. I think he's fantastic. I just don't think being an interim coach for anyone earns you the job. It is the job. Your job was to step in there and do the job. For any program, and right now we're talking about Texas, the main thing is to get the right person for the future of the program. And if that's Rodney, great. Right. If it's not, you have to go in that direction. This is a multi-billion-dollar business, and I mean, this is not a perfect analogy, but I mean, if you're on a cruise ship and the captain gets sick and the first mate has to take over and gets you back into the harbor, you don't just automatically make him the captain for the next voyage. But it doesn't preclude you from doing that either. So it's kind of a mealy-mouthed way of saying if Rodney's the best person, hire that person. It's not for me to say, but I do believe that Texas should look at everything like anybody would. I mean, I think any of us in that position would do that. It's not about making somebody feel good for doing a good job. It's about getting the best person.
Like you say, shouldn't be a reward. It should be who's the best man for the job the next 10 years.
Yeah, and he's provided some pretty good evidence that he could be that. And, right. Absolutely.
That is a great analogy. I wanted to ask you a little bit, and a lot of this thing around Rodney Terry is, Chris Beard put this team together. Rodney Terry helped him recruit, but this is Chris Beard's team that he constructed, and it's a veteran team. So guys are leaving, and the big question with Rodney, can you bring back other guys like this? Now when we were young, Jay, and we had hair, and this was the 80s, love the 80s. You were on that 86 team that made it to the title game. senior Jay Bilas, junior Johnny Dawkins, senior Mark Allery, and you had some pups. You had Quinn Snyder, you had Danny Ferry, both freshmen, and Johnny Dawkins was a senior. So good mix. But nowadays, this transfer portal, more older guys are taking up these spots. Are these young guys, and I'm not talking about the one and done. I'm talking about these young freshmen that grow into the position, like Quinn Snyder. He grew into a really good college player. Are they going to be falling through the cracks with this transfer portal, keeping these older guys around for much longer?
Yes and no. So as you mentioned, that was a different time back then when most freshmen came to college. They didn't expect to play right away. You felt like you might have to serve a little bit of an internship behind an older player, established player. And so if you didn't start as a freshman, it wasn't the end of the world. You know, the guys you mentioned that were seniors then, Mark Allery, Johnny Dawkins, David Henderson, myself, we all started as freshmen, but we started as freshmen because the team wasn't that good. Mm-hmm. And so we all started. But now I think what you'll see happen is because it's so valuable to be able to bring in an experienced transfer, you'll probably see more freshmen, not all of them, but more freshmen that will go to a place where they can play, and then they'll transfer to somebody somewhere else that they really wanted to be.
That makes sense.
I think that'll happen. It's not going to be every player. You'll still have the super talented guys as freshmen that are going to go wherever they want and play right away. But I think, you know, you guys see it with Jabari Rice. You know, he was at New Mexico State, and one of the great things about the transfer portal. Look, like a schlep like me that watches nothing but basketball, I saw Jabari Rice play, but most people didn't. And he had the opportunity to leave and play on a bigger stage. And now everybody in the country knows who he is and knows he's got the best shot fake in America and all that stuff. It's you know, coaches have done it forever. You know, they smaller school do well, jump up to the bigger school, make more money. Everybody knows who they are. You know, they got a chance to compete. I don't see why players shouldn't have that same right, but it's going to change the landscape for freshmen.
You know, the last question I have for you, Jay, is Chris Beard got a job at Ole Miss. Are you surprised he rebounded and got a Power 5 job that quickly? And how long do you think it takes for him to get Ole Miss in the tournament and make an impact?
Well, am I surprised? No, I'm not surprised anymore. This is big business, and I think the administrators out there, the NCAA personnel, they talk a good game about integrity and doing the things the right way and all that. And I like Chris very much. But, you know, maybe 25, 30 years ago, things that are overlooked now wouldn't have been overlooked. You know, these programs want to win more than anything. And so we've seen, you know, Will Wade just got hired, things like that, where it might have been disqualifying years ago. And no, that's no longer the case. I don't doubt Chris Beard's going to have Ole Miss competitive right away, especially with the portal. You know, you get in the portal and recruit some really good players. It's a tough league, but he just came from a tough league. He can coach anywhere. So I don't have any doubts that he'll do a fantastic job.
Well, Jay, man, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us, dropping a little bit of knowledge on our little podcast. And we look forward to your musings on ESPN, your expert commentary, and say hi to Dickie V for us. We love him.
We will. Thank you very much.
Mix in an app now and then, okay?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you, Jay.
Be good, guys. Thank you.